A mighty empire could have risen in the heart of North America long before Columbus ever set sail. Imagine vast cities, monumental earthworks, and a unified vision stretching across a continent. What if Cahokia, the sprawling ancient metropolis of the Mississippi world, had not faded into the earth, but instead forged an enduring dominion? Image_shorts_1. A lone Mississippian figure seen from behind, silhouetted against the dawn sky, standing atop a smaller earthen mound and gazing across the nascent Cahokian city below. Emotional atmospheric vertical composition. 916. No readable text. Image_shorts_2. Two robed Mississippian scholars walking away from camera toward the towering base of Monks Mound, their figures dwarfed by its immense earthen scale. Warm dawn light, ancient earthen textures. Vertical composition. 916. No readable text. Image_shorts_3. Extreme close-up of an ancient chunky stone resting on dark earth, smooth polished stone surface, worn edges, soft warm studio lighting, no readable inscription. Vertical macro composition. 916. This is not just a tale of what could have been. It is an exploration of human potential and the forces that shape civilizations. In this alternate timeline, a world of speculation, not history, Cahokia's influence does not merely radiate outward. It hardens into an imperial core. Image_shorts_1. A silhouetted Cahokian leader figure seen from behind, gesturing toward a symbolic map or diagram marked in earth. Small group of advisors surrounding him in low torchlight. Vertical composition. 916. No readable text. Image_shorts_2. Two figures in period Mississippian attire seen from behind, standing at the edge of a wide-open North American plain, arms outstretched toward the horizon. Cinematic atmospheric light. Vertical composition. 916. No readable text. Image_shorts_3. Close-up macro shot of ancient woven fabric with complex Cahokian-style geometric patterns and natural earth tone dyes. Warm directional lighting. No readable labels. Vertical macro composition. 916. From the great river cities to distant trade routes, what would a Cahokian empire truly look like? How would it govern, expand, adapt, and endure? Join us as Historix Vault unearths a North America profoundly different from the one we know. Image_shorts_1. A lone figure in ceremonial Mississippian attire, walking away from camera down a grand earthen ceremonial avenue toward a distant mound. Warm dramatic light. Vertical composition. 916. No readable text. Image_shorts_2. Two figures in silhouette, one pointing toward a distant horizon over a vast North American plain while the other watches. Golden atmospheric light. Vertical composition. 916. No readable text. Image_shorts_3. Close-up of dark rich earth and gnarled tree roots intertwined. Symbolic connection to deep land history. Warm natural lighting. Vertical macro composition. 916. No readable text. To understand the potential of a Cahokian empire, we must first appreciate the city as it truly was. By around 1050 CE, Cahokia, near the confluence of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers, became the largest pre-Columbian city north of Mexico. It was a marvel of engineering, organization, ceremony, and riverine power. Its population may have reached tens of thousands, making it one of the great urban centers of its age. Monks Mound, the colossal earthen platform, stood as the city's spiritual and political heart. Around it moved farmers, builders, ritual specialists, traders, and leaders, bound together by the Mississippian world. But even at its height, Cahokia faced pressure. Its vast influence depended on allied communities, long-distance trade, maize harvests, river access, and political loyalty. Food security, internal stability, and resource scarcity created subtle but powerful tensions. The conditions were ripe for a more assertive, centralized power. In our alternate timeline, the delicate balance begins to fray around 1150 CE. Harsh winters, shifting river conditions, and prolonged droughts weaken maize harvests across the vital riverine breadbasket. At the same time, a copper route from the Great Lakes becomes unstable, threatening both ceremony and prestige. This double blow, food scarcity and resource disruption, forces the Cahokian High Council to confront an existential crisis. Passive diplomacy and ritual authority are no longer enough. The choice becomes stark: contract and slowly weaken, or expand and seize control of the systems that keep the city alive. Under the leadership of a fictional new paramount chief, Hówa, remembered in this timeline as the Great Eagle, Cahokia, chooses expansion. Hówa declares that the prosperity of the city depends on direct governance over critical farmland, river crossings, and ceremonial resources. A loose sphere of influence begins to transform into an imperial project. The first targets are the fertile lands to the west, held by independent farming communities reluctant to yield their shrinking surplus. Hówa sends disciplined warrior bands, equipped with bows, stone-tipped spears, and war clubs. The message is clear: join the Cahokian order, or be absorbed into it. The initial campaigns are swift. Communities weakened by drought and divided leadership cannot form a unified defense. Their harvests begin flowing toward Cahokia, and their people are drawn into labor, transport, and military obligations. Cahokia is no longer only a city of influence. It is becoming a hegemon. But this is only the beginning. Success in the west emboldens Hówa. The new resources stabilize the capital, allowing him to consolidate power and plan more ambitious expansion. The strategy becomes systematic: secure river access, control fertile floodplains, dominate trade nodes, and make every road lead back to Monks Mound. Cahokian armies, now seasoned and better supplied, push south along the Mississippi. They encounter organized Mississippian chiefdoms capable of resistance. What began as expansion turns into a series of sieges, river crossings, and battles that forge the empire under pressure. Conquered communities are given a hard bargain: accept Cahokian administration, tribute obligations, and ceremonial alignment, or face tighter control and relocation. The policy is coercive, but it also expands direct governance and pulls new peoples into the imperial framework. Administrative capacity grows with territorial ambition. Regional mound centers loyal to Cahokia are established along rivers and crossroads. Trade routes once vulnerable to disruption are now guarded by garrisons, messengers, and officials who keep tribute, goods, and information moving toward the capital. But rapid expansion creates danger. The farther Cahokia stretches, the thinner its resources and military presence become. Whispers of dissent spread among newly subjected peoples, while stories of formidable independent chiefdoms beyond the frontier begin reaching Hówa's court. A storm is gathering beyond the edge of the map. By the early 1200s, the Cahokian Empire faces its greatest test. A confederation of independent chiefdoms, galvanized by fear of Cahokian expansion, gathers under a fictional warrior chief remembered as Red Hawk from the Ouachita region. Their goal is simple: break Cahokia before Cahokia absorbs them all. This is no minor uprising. Red Hawk's forces avoid open field confrontation at first. They strike supply lines, isolated garrisons, and river convoys, then disappear into forests, swamps, and broken terrain. The landscape that once carried Cahokia's expansion now becomes a maze of ambush and attrition. The war culminates in the Battle of the Three Rivers, near the meeting of the Arkansas, White, and Mississippi systems. Cahokia's disciplined core faces a larger and fiercely motivated enemy on contested ground. The fate of the empire hangs in the balance. Hówa prevails, but at terrible cost. The victory is not the clean triumph of a rising conqueror. It is a warning. The empire has been pushed to its limits, revealing the flaw in expansion built mainly on fear. Territories can be conquered faster than loyalty can be created. Pause in the aftermath, deep introspection grips Monks Mound. The High Council divides between those demanding harsher control and those urging retreat. Hówa, marked by the crisis, understands that a new path is necessary. Otherwise, Cahokia will crumble from within. The crisis forces a strategic shift. Instead of forced assimilation alone, Cahokia offers a great peace, an imperial charter of shared prosperity and cultural preservation under Cahokian supremacy. Local chiefs keep meaningful autonomy, provided they acknowledge the paramount chief, contribute resources, and maintain the imperial roads and waterways. Cahokia also invests beyond garrisons. Communal storage granaries, strengthened levees, improved roads, and river ports begin appearing across the empire. These public works benefit both the core and the periphery, fostering dependency, exchange, and a growing sense of shared order. Economic integration follows. A standardized medium of exchange, built around polished shell beads and valued prestige goods, spreads through the empire. Barter does not disappear, but trade becomes faster, taxation becomes easier, and regional economies become tied more deeply to Cahokia. Religious life adapts as well. The Cahokian birdman cosmology remains central, but local spiritual traditions are tolerated and woven into a broader imperial ceremonial system. This does not erase local identity. it repositions it inside a shared sacred order tied to the sun, rivers, and the paramount chief. This new formula, military strength backed by political compromise, economic integration, and cultural tolerance, proves more durable than force alone. Rebellions do not vanish, but they diminish. Cahokia has learned to be more than a conqueror. It is becoming an empire. Over the next 2 centuries, the Cahokian Empire, later remembered by its inhabitants as the Great Sun Dominion, or Hówa's realm, reaches its golden age. Its influence stretches from the Great Lakes through the Ohio and Mississippi valleys, toward the Gulf Coast, and across parts of the plains. This is not a monolithic European-style empire. It is a mosaic held together by river infrastructure, shared economic systems, ceremonial legitimacy, and a hierarchy that balances central authority with local autonomy. Cahokian architecture, symbols, and social norms become the dominant markers across a vast region. Monks Mound remains the imperial capital. Around it rise observatories, grand temples, storage complexes, and sprawling marketplaces. Enriched by the resources of the empire, Cahokia becomes a center of agricultural innovation, pottery, coppercraft, ceremony, and political theater. When Europeans arrive, first through northern contacts and later through southern and eastern coastlines, they meet a very different North America. Instead of a fragmented field of isolated communities, they encounter a prepared indigenous empire with ports, patrols, messengers, and political memory. Early European footholds are difficult to secure. The Cahokian Empire can mobilize warriors, redirect supplies, and coordinate responses through its river networks. Conflicts still occur, but many expeditions are repelled, contained, or forced into trade under Cahokian terms. Disease still arrives, and its impact is devastating. But the empire's agricultural systems, storage networks, transport routes, and organized care allow some regions to recover better than fragmented societies could. The damage is severe, but not necessarily existential. Over time, cautious adaptation begins. Cahokian artisans study European metallurgy, seafaring tools, writing systems, and political practices. The empire does not simply copy them. It absorbs what is useful and translates it into its own ceremonial and administrative world. Imagine a North America where great Mississippian mound cities flourish for centuries more, developing sophisticated legal customs, artistic traditions, and indigenous philosophical thought. The very idea of the continent changes when its center is not colonized from the coast but organized from the rivers. The course of global history shifts. European colonial ambitions in North America are checked, redirected, or forced into negotiation. Other empires must account for an indigenous power capable of diplomacy, defense, trade control, and continental-scale coordination. The environmental consequences are equally profound. A centralized Cahokian state might manage rivers, forests, and farmland more sustainably, or exploit them at unprecedented scale. The Mississippi River, the lifeblood of the empire, becomes engineered, regulated, and revered. This alternate reality paints a picture of resilience, ingenuity, and power. The potential for indigenous empires was not confined to Mesoamerica or the Andes. It existed here too, in the heart of North America, where rivers, earthworks, maize, trade, and ceremony could have built a different world. The ruins of Cahokia whisper not only of what was, but of what might have been. In another turn of fate, Monks Mound might not have become a silent monument. It might have remained the heart of a living empire. Every empire has a story history forgot. This has been Historix Vault. More are coming. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one.